So, you think the Pied Piper is just some creepy old fairy tale? Well, think again. It's actually one of the most brutal lessons in contract law you'll ever come across, and the whole thing boils down to one simple, terrifying business deal.
Right? You know the story. A town is completely overrun with rats. A mysterious piper with a magic flute shows up and offers to fix the problem. The town's leaders make him a promise, and, well, when that promise gets broken, a terrible price is paid. In children. Because here's the thing. When you strip away all the magic and the mystery, what you're left with is one of the most important and, frankly, terrifying economic lessons ever told.
The version we all know today was actually built in layers over centuries. And get this, the whole rat infestation part, the entire reason for the deal in the first place, wasn't even in the original accounts. It was added almost 300 years later to try and explain the real historical event, the day the town's children just vanished.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in the town of Hamelin, and they are facing a full-blown crisis. A plague of rats is threatening their food, their health, their entire way of life. They are absolutely desperate. Now, this desperation creates what economists call inelastic demand. It's that situation where you need something so badly, think life-saving medicine, or in this case, a world-class exterminator, that you will pay anything for it. For the town of Hamelin, the price was basically infinite.
For the mayor, this wasn't really a choice. The rat problem was an existential threat to his town. He needed a solution, and he needed it yesterday. He was ready to promise the moon to get one.
And this is when our guy, the piper, walks in. Now, forget the magic flute for a minute and just think of him as a highly specialized contractor, a pest control expert, basically. He was kind of the gig worker of the Middle Ages. He had a unique, incredibly high-value skill, but he also had very low social status. So the piper gets right to work. He plays his tune, and just like he promised, he leads every last rat in town down to the river Weser, where they all drown. Job done. Perfectly executed.
So he goes back to the mayor to collect the 1,000 guilders they agreed on. But now that the rats are gone, the mayor, he sees an opening. He goes back on the deal, offering him a measly 50 guilders. That's a 95% pay cut. He was gambling that this low-status piper was powerless to do anything about it.
You see, from the mayor's cold, calculating point of view, the piper's work was now what we call a sunk cost. The service was done. The rats couldn't be undrowned. So in his mind, the piper had lost every bit of his leverage.
And this is where the story gets really juicy, because you can look at this betrayal in two totally different ways. On one hand, you could say a contract is sacred, the foundation of society, and the piper is just enforcing the consequences. But on the other hand, maybe this is the ultimate labor dispute, the exploited gig worker striking back against the powerful client who cheated him, hitting him where it hurts the absolute most.
So the piper, cheated and completely disrespected, walks back into the street. He raises his pipe to his lips one more time, but this time he plays a different tune, a tune that doesn't attract rats, but the town's children. And here is the part that should give you chills. This isn't just a spooky story. This drawing is a copy of a church window from that time, showing a real traumatic event. Town records in Hamelin actually confirm it. On one specific day, the town lost its children. Yeah, there's an inscription on a building in Hamelin known as the Pied Piper House, and it is chillingly specific. It says that on June 26, 1284, 130 children born in Hamelin were led out of town by a piper in multicolored clothes, and they disappeared forever. So all right, let's look at this the way the mayor should have, as a business deal. What was his return on investment, his ROI? I mean, think about it. The mayor saved 950 guilders, but in exchange for that, he lost the town's entire next generation. He traded his people's future just to save a little cash. It's quite possibly the worst business deal in the history of business deals.
So what does this wild story from 1284 actually teach us today? Well, pay the piper isn't just some quaint old saying. It's an economic law.
It's really a fundamental lesson about respecting the value of people who solve your most critical problems. You just don't stiff the person who holds the keys to your survival, whether that's getting rid of rats in the 13th century or, securing your company's data in the 21st. So the next time someone brings up this story, forget the magic flute. Tell them the economic version. Tell them the story about the absolute power of a contract, the consequences of greed, and the infinite interest rate you will pay on a broken promise. Always pay the piper. And that leaves us with one final chilling question. In our own lives, in our own businesses, what deals are we making?
And are we absolutely certain we understand the true cost of breaking our word?